Hello, everybody, and welcome into another week of Voice to Voice. Been a couple weeks off, but we are back. How could you not be for a week of this sort of importance? Florida State and Miami. It's been a tale of two seasons for the Seminoles and the Hurricanes, but of course, the Garnet and Gold will take that either way as long as they can get a W against the Orange and Green in Miami Gardens. There's a whole lot to process. There's a whole lot to break down. The comment section is open both on Facebook and YouTube. We won't have a Q&A after Voice to Voice this time, but if you have an interesting question or comment, we'll try to get you on the air 5, 6, or 11 sometime over the next couple days before kickoff between FSU and Miami. Again, this is a big week. You probably don't want to hear from me. You want to hear from the guy you came to see. So we'll go ahead and get right to the action. Here's our interview that we recorded yesterday afternoon with myself and the voice of the Seminoles, Mr. Jeff Culhane. Storm warning flag above us in the practice tower. That can only mean one thing. It is Florida State Miami week. Ryan Kelly and, of course, the voice of the Seminoles, Jeff Culhane. Jeff, this is the first time you get to experience this. Just what's the week been like so far, just inside the building? I know the mood always kind of shifts for this week, and what are you most looking forward to Saturday night?
Just being a part of one of the greatest rivalries in all of sports, and being my first one calling it. Looking forward to the energy at Hard Rock Stadium. I know Knowles fans are going to evade it, calling it Doak South, and having a blast and having a lot of fun. And really going to enjoy, Ryan, watching this team, continue, as Mike Norvell calls it, continue the climb. And to come out of the bye week, play the way they did against Georgia Tech in dominating fashion was great to see. And you knew it was in there, coming off of a tough 3-week stretch where a play here or there sends this Florida State football team maybe to a win, maybe to a couple of wins against ranked opponents. And so, this is a game, no matter where you're at around the country, and I can attest to that growing up in the Midwest. Florida State and Miami, no matter the situation, the rankings, or the records, it's a game that you see and you go, oh, I need to check that game out because something fun and interesting is bound to happen. And that's what Florida State Miami has been all about over the years and over the decades.
It's always great to go into a rivalry game. It's even better to go into it with a win. Georgia Tech's a reeling squad. We all know that. But at the end of the day, you did what you needed to do. You put them out of their misery. You beat them bell to bell. That's not to say there weren't some issues, but just the importance psychologically after a bye, 3 straight losses. It's been a month since you've been in the win column for a team that went out of the gate and felt pretty good about themselves 4-0. Just what do you think the importance is of taking care of business in a situation like that?
I think, to your point, it was a great mental health game, for this team. They know what they're capable of. They know it's in there, right? They know that they are making their way in the right direction. The buy-in, as we have talked about, and the execution of a high level of leadership within the locker room amongst the players has grown and developed here into this third year under Coach Norvell and this staff. And so, I think the importance of it is it gets you back on the right track. Not that there was any doubt at all creeping in, but you want to see the hard work pay off, right? And you get off to the great start. You had the gauntlet that you knew was going to be there in the month of October. It doesn't go the way you want it to, but then, like you said, it's a Georgia Tech team that was reeling, that was having their issues. You don't have your starting quarterback overall. Not that I don't think it really would have made a difference, to be quite honest with you, ultimately at the end of the day. And you did what you were supposed to do. Mike Norvell asked this team to go out and dominate. They did that. They dominated. They were expected to be the better team on paper. They were that on the field for 60 minutes last Saturday.
And on top of all that, you're healthy doing it as well. Listen, football is a war of attrition. You're going to lose guys. You're going to have to play through injuries. You're going to have to play through nagging things all year. But to see Fabian Levitt back on the defensive line, and on top of that, Mike Norvell told us on Monday that he feels as good about on Tuesday, he feels as good about this team depth-wise as he has all year.
And I mean, I think you saw glimpses of that, last Saturday, where majority of guys, and there's the guys that are dealing with things that they'll deal with for the rest of the year. But you see the growth and the depth, and just the availability of guys is as good as it's been since the second week of the season.
Because not only are you getting these guys back, but now you've had the younger guys who had to step into these roles. They've had valuable reps. It's something Coach Bowden used to say: when you've made it to November, you're not freshmen anymore. Right. You're not fresh faces anymore. This is now a team that's starting to build a little bit more quality depth. And on top of that, they're getting some of their best players back.
Have to have it late in the season, and you have to have it if you want to be a great football team. And you look at the Florida State teams of old. I've heard William Barnum Floyd say this many, many times on our radio broadcasts. You're one play away. You're a twisted ankle away from being the starter and being the next man up. And that next man up mentality has been at the forefront of this team during the great years under Coach Bowden. And now it's coming back here under Coach Norvell because they've been able to recruit talented players. Those young players mentally have been ready. Physically, they've been developed well under Coach Storms and the great strength and conditioning staff and nutrition staff with Jaden Hamill here at Florida State University. And so you've got your unintended consequences of those injuries, young guys like Patrick Payton, Joshua Farmer along the defensive line and others around this defense get their chances. Those guys have stepped up and made plays. Now we get to see Fabian Lovett return. His presence is so influential, not only for this defensive line, but this entire football team when he is out there on the field. You're seeing Trayshawn Ward here at practice this week. Will he play? We'll see. He's looked pretty darn good in the periods we've been able to witness thus far, Ryan. And so you get a guy who's one of the best in the ACC with a running back room that is the best in the ACC overall statistically right now. So you'll like to see this team getting healthy at the right time and those unintended consequences of young guys gaining confidence and ready to go if something were to happen.
After Wednesday's practice, Mike Norvell certainly seemed like he thought Trayshawn Ward was going to give this a go.
As of right now, something negative would have to happen for him not to play. I feel very confident where he's heading. What that looks like, we'll see. But I do believe that he's trending the right way.
Florida State's going to get its three-headed monster back, which is huge news. Because what is it they say? Turnovers and running the football. That's what wins you rivalry games. This is a rivalry game that's very, very interesting this year. Miami, I think we all know. I mean, the Schadenfreude aside, if you're a Florida State fan sitting at home, this has not been the season that I think anybody expected for the Hurricanes. They've, of course, had so much hype in the offseason, bringing in Mario Cristobal. Offensively, it just has not clicked for them at all. But we also know that there's been an injury at the key position of their best player on that side of the football. Jake Garcia, of course, a former Valdosta Wildcat, but we all know that this offense is different. Absolutely different when Tyler Van Dyke is there and when he's dealing. And that second part has an emphasis as well because he's had his ups and downs throughout the season.
Yeah, it's been, all those things that you put together and put in the pot, that recipe. Look, you can throw it out the window. I mean, because of this game, and you can throw the records out the window as well. This defense and this team here at Florida State is preparing as if Tyler Van Dyke is going to play. And I'd be shocked if he didn't. I'll be honest with you. With what this game means, everybody right now is not quite 100% overall. And he took a nasty injury with that right throwing shoulder against Duke. Didn't play versus UVA. He was there in street clothes. I would be shocked, Ryan, if he doesn't play in this game. And so you're absolutely right. This is a season that has not gone the way that Miami was hoping it would go. But that being said, this is the type of game that I don't need to tell Noles fans and educate them on. They are aware. You obviously expect the unexpected, and crazy things happen, and you just have to prepare and be ready to face adversity when it hits you, because it's going to hit you in this contest at some point in time. And it's just a special setup. You've got, houses and families divided across the state of Florida and across the country as well. Bragging rights on the line. It's a massive game in the world of high school football and college football recruiting as well, right? You know all about that, covering high school football around this state and around this region. And so nobody shies away from what this game's mean. I think if you're asking me in my first time being here, that's what I love the most. Some places don't acknowledge the rivalry and what it means, but not here. You acknowledge it, you embrace it. It's what it's all about. And this is going to be a fun one on Saturday night.
We're for that kid who just scored his first goal. We're for the new hire who's just looking to fit in. We're for that person who's impossible to shop for. We're for congratulating you on all your years of hard work. We're awards for you, and we're for helping you celebrate life's special moments.
Madison RV and Golf Resort is a camper and golfer's dream. We invite you to come stay with us, play our challenging layout, 18 tee boxes and 9 championship holes, rolling terrain, and a golf training facility. Catch and release fish, relax in our new pool or play pickleball. Madison RV and Golf Resort is the perfect location to enjoy the outdoors in a relaxing, fresh air atmosphere. Madison RV and Golf Resort, Madison, Florida, just off I-10. Reserve your spot today. MadisonRVResort.com.
And, you mentioned that the rivalry is such a big deal, particularly that's got to be what's being emphasized in the other locker room as well.
Mm-hmm.
The season hasn't gone the way you thought. It's been a rough go for them. But a win over Florida State changes the calculus for the Hurricanes.
Well, and yes, and not to cut you off, but look, mathematically, Miami, who was picked to win the Coastal, is not out of it yet. They can still get to a bowl game, right? And they have 4 games left to go at 4-4. You win this game, as you were talking about, this can springboard this Miami Hurricane team into the final month of the regular season, where they are facing some tough opponents, home and away.
Clemson's coming to town.
Yes, that's as tough as it gets right now in the ACC. So you better believe they've got some injuries. I tell you what, I'm really impressed by their defensive line. They're fast, they're physical. They go 10, 11 guys deep up front. What a matchup to watch, as we talked about Florida State's rushing offense and what they've done against some of the best defensive fronts here this season. Clemson and NC State come to mind. Another challenge with Miami's defensive front. Great opportunity there. And again, yes, for the Canes, it hasn't gone the way. Preseason pick in the Coastal, top 15 ranking overall to begin the season. But a win against the Garnet and Gold would be all they would talk about, no matter what else happens the rest of the season.
You talked a little bit about Miami's defense, so I'll go ahead and kind of move forward on what a fast start in this game could mean. I mean, you are the favorite on the road in a place that, you're pretty comfortable winning. Florida State's only lost 2 games there over the last decade. If you go out to a fast start, what does that do for the psyche over on the other sideline? Because, if you could knock them out early, what does that change the calculus in this game?
Well, they struggled at home for whatever reasons this year. They lost to Middle Tennessee with Florida State great quarterback Rick Stockstill as the head coach. They lost, obviously, to North Carolina, and they were beaten badly by Duke after Tyler Van Dyke went out, and 8 turnovers overall. And this Florida State team has been great to start football games on both sides of it in each half, scoring 11 times on 16 opening half drives, 10 of those touchdowns, right? So it's been a fast-starting group, and defensively, RK, they haven't allowed a touchdown on the opening drive all season. So the recipe and the blueprint are there on paper. Can you execute it? Can you go out and do it? If you're able to do it, you're right. You put a team that had their issues at home, who mentally may be a little bit fragile, put them on their heels. You got to keep it going, though, after that early start and keep the punches flowing for a full 60 minutes.
You got to give them a reason to say, no, thanks, we're good.
Yes.
And Miami struggles at home. I can't understand why such a raucous environment. Listen, jokes and Schadenfreude aside, it will be raucous on Saturday. It always is when these two get together down there. For Florida State, pun 100% intended, to weather the storm, to keep going, to get bowl eligible, by the way.
Fantastic.
What's it going to take? What Florida State wins this game to wrap this
Well,
up?
I think they just need to keep playing how they're playing. They don't need to do anything magical. They need to avoid the self-inflicted wounds we have talked about in these games that they have lost. And I don't think it's anything that is shocking.
Complimentary football.
Yes, play complimentary football across the board and do the things they've done. They don't have to do anything out of character, out of the ordinary. It's the best rushing offense here in the ACC. Continue to run the football. Take care of the football. Don't give Miami opportunities where they have short fields or allow big plays to keep them around in this football game and get the crowd into this football game as well. Expect Tyler Van Dyke to go. You got to get to him. Florida State's been able to rush the passer. Jared Verse has had a TFL, Ryan, in every game but one this year and is the best in the country, TFLs per game, in all of Power 5 college football this season. So unleash number 5, let the defensive front go to work, and let's see if we can get a few turnovers mixed in there as well from this Florida State defense.
For me, it's about executing bell to bell, particularly in those middle 8 minutes, the 4 before half, the 4 after. We saw against Clemson what that can do and how that can make games slip away. We saw coming out of halftime, Georgia Tech kicks the onside kick. They get one of just 2 touchdowns on the day. And, of course, that second one really, really late in that game. It was kind of a shoulder shrugger. But at that point, you give them a little bit of life. You cannot allow Miami to have life in that crowd when they're in desperation mode. That to me is going to be the big key here, is in those key moments, like you said, can you execute the L and climb the little things? It's what Mike Norvell loves to talk about, and that's sometimes what it feels like can hold this team back in those key moments, at least throughout the month of October it did.
We talk about what a win would do for Miami, what a win would do for Florida State.
Big deal.
It would be is a huge deal. Bowl eligible against your rival down in South Florida, and you get to go into Syracuse the following weekend to wrap up ACC play and face a Cuse team that got off to a hot start to begin the season, but could be coming back down to earth a little bit with some of their injuries and some of their performances lately. So what a win would mean for Florida State certainly would mean the world. And we'd love to be able to be talking about making plans around the holiday time, folks deciding what they're going to do with their budgets and their money, where we're going to travel to. That is also
You're reading my boss's mind.
That's is what it means as well, RK.
Finally, on top of all that, you mentioned the momentum. This November's huge. You've got both of your big in-state rivals. You've got Miami, and you've got the school down the road at the end of the year on Black Friday. There's so much talk and hype, of course, both of them with new head coaches. I find it kind of fascinating. Mike Norvell didn't necessarily get that new car smell, that big bump, because he's here for just a couple months, and then the world shuts down and you can't go out and you can't go into these rooms and you can't recruit. Sometimes that new coach, that honeymoon phase momentum on the trail, maybe didn't necessarily get that. But what you can do is you can get something in the inverse. You can certainly spoil the party for both of those schools right here. And you can kind of say, hey, listen, why do you want to go to some place that's new and still trying to find its footing and still trying to figure out where we are? We know who we are. We know what we're doing. And we've got quite the plan in place.
Well, I think it's more so the last part, as you laid out, Ryan. It's about Mike Norvell's vision for what Florida State football is and where it's going, where it's climbing to, as we talk about. And the possibilities are endless here of getting back to where this place has been under Bobby Bowden and the great Florida State teams of the 1980s, 1990s, and the 2000s. Jimbo, of course, in 2013 with Jameis Winston and company. It's there. The support is there as well behind the scenes from Michael Alford, Dr. Richard McCullough, and the administration. You've got facilities improvements coming. The new football-only practice facility starts up in December. Some things happening around Doak as well. It's coming. It's on the way in an ever-changing world of college football and college athletics. And so you sell what you have, and what you have right now is something that's pretty darn great and pretty dang good overall. And these games at the end of the season are opportunities as well to explain to people, to folks, about where Florida State is at, where they've come from, where they're going. And you're able to win these games late in the year against teams like Miami and Florida. It goes a long, long way.
Florida State, Miami. Need we say more? Well, we said about 15 minutes anyway. But anyway, Jeff Culhane, voice of the Noles.
Thank you very much.
Have fun this weekend.
Let's have a lot of fun.